Welcome to the Taste Toast Travel Podcast, Jenny. I am so excited to talk to you today, especially when I heard about the work that you do. So you are a certified eating psychology coach and a culinary nutritionist. So I was like, please tell me more. This sounds fascinating. So I'm really excited to talk to you about a lot of things, but the psychology behind how we eat, mindset around food, and how we can really just enjoy food while we're at home, while we're abroad, while we're traveling. Whole premise of this podcast, right? And take advantage of all of the delicious foods out there and not depriving ourselves, but again, in that sort of mindful way. But that all being said, before we dig in, just a big welcome to you. I'm excited to have you.
Uh, Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you.
My favorite
I
topics,
know, right? Travel and food. Say
travel and
less.
food.
I know. What more do you need in life? Well, let's first touch on your work as an eating psychology coach and a culinary nutritionist. I'm very fascinated by this. So, just to kick us off, can you tell us a little bit about what that involves and, the types of people you work with and what that work entails?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to starting my own company doing eating psychology 10 years ago, I actually was a health coach at a weight and health management company. And I was actually helping people lose weight using these really restrictive like meal
Mm,
replacements. And people would lose like tons of weight, but then I kept seeing them come back over and over because they would lose the weight and then would gain it back.
yep.
And I was like, why, what's actually missing here?
Mhm.
And I realized the food was awful. They were like these little prepackaged
Yeah.
meals and these like shakes with artificial sweeteners. And I was like, maybe people are afraid to actually find pleasure in food
Yeah.
and because they don't trust themselves, because they have a history of vilifying food and thinking, like if I even have a little bit of this, I'm going to end up binging on it.
Right.
And it really got me interested in like the psychology behind how we eat. And amazingly, I found this program that talked all about that. And so that's how I got into eating psychology. And it's been such a game changer because I was a chronic dieter
Mhm.
myself, always struggled with my weight and food and disordered eating. And through me going to this program, I was able to let go of diet culture myself,
Yeah.
which was incredibly freeing. And it's kind of grown from there.
That's amazing. How liberating. And I feel like, especially with just society nowadays and social media and the messaging that we're all just inundated with, and now Ozempic is a thing and all the, it's like, and there's always something,
Mhm.
but I feel that, and there's people in, our own personal life that struggle with that as well, and so that's why I think the psychology behind it, understanding the why behind it and why we make the decisions we do or don't, is so impactful in our daily life, and, to your point, what you just said is so powerful, it's like, okay, they would have these prepackaged things or the shakes or whatever, but it wouldn't really, quote, "fix the problem," right? They kept coming back. It's still it didn't get to the root of it, sort of. It almost seems more
Exactly.
like a Band-Aid, I guess, in a way.
That's exactly what it was,
Yeah.
that people were not addressing the root causes of why they were using food as a surrogate, right?
Yeah.
For other things deeper that they're not addressing in their lives.
Yeah.
Whether it's stress or loneliness or whatever else it is.
Mhm.
And and yeah, it was a real eye opener for me. I was working there 13 years
Wow.
before I realized, oh wait, is this really
This
healthy?
is
I
a
don't even think this is healthy,
Yeah.
But we've come a long way and there are so many things that create pressure around food like you discussed now with the GLP-1s
Mhm.
and it's still an issue. Diet culture is definitely still an
Yeah.
issue, but I've been really happy to see the proliferation of more mindful and intuitive eating
Yeah.
practices. And I got very interested in nutrition as well, culinary nutrition specifically because my mom is a gourmet chef, and she was a chef at a few restaurants in New York City, and I've
Amazing.
always like loved food. And I wasn't like interested in cooking as a kid, but like as an adult, I became like really interested in cooking. And my mom has taught me a lot of her techniques. And the culinary nutrition program was all about, using food as medicine, but
Yeah.
and also learning ways to cook in a way that helps you to nourish your body, but also find pleasure and to really enjoy what you're eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I wanna dig into all of that. Let's first come because what you just mentioned is actually something I wanted to ask you about, and I think this is so interesting, and there's a lot people can probably take away from here. So, you mentioned, like, mindful and intuitive, like, really intentional eating. So, what does that mean to you, and, like, how would you define that in a way? What does that look like in, like,
Yeah.
practical day-to-day life?
Yeah, so mindful and intuitive eating, they're like cousins,
Mhm.
but they're not exactly the same. And so if we're talking about mindful eating, it's really about the how you eat. So slowing down,
Mhm.
being present for your food.
Mhm.
Like I used to eat standing up or in
Mm.
my car or watching TV.
Yeah.
It's not that I never do that, but you know, becoming a mindful eater meant actually agreeing to be in my body while I'm
Yeah.
eating, to really taste my food in a meaningful way and to listen to my body cues better
Mhm.
as in real time. Like, am I getting full? Am I enjoying this? How do I know? How do I know if I'm hungry? Like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And intuitive eating is very similar, and it has to do more with like a lot more with the kind of how do I know what my body needs right now? What questions can I
Mhm.
ask to determine, what do I need? Am I craving something, texturally complicated? Am I craving something salty? Who am I as an eater? And like, how do I learn to trust my body to give me the signals and cues to know when to eat, how much to eat, when to stop, and all those questions that I got instead of like externalizing everything, like this guru said to eat only protein, and this person said to only eat carbs, and I'm supposed to have my lunch at 12, and if I eat after 6, something's wrong with me. And being able to like actually internalize it instead to start trusting your own body to make those decisions.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, just out of curiosity, like, okay, so you already mentioned like a few questions you might ask yourself and more with the intuitive eating, but I think that's where, some people, again, I'm thinking of certain people in my own life where they get a little hung up on that. They don't maybe trust their intuition. They don't listen to it very much, but I think a lot of people get hung up on the like, what do I even ask? What am I, it's like they get kind of
Mm.
stuck on that first part of it to sort of break through. So, like with the people you work with or clients or just, any tips that you have in terms of how to kind of break through that, like what questions can maybe just two or three questions, right? That we can maybe ask
Yeah.
ourselves on like a daily basis or when we're about to eat something, to keep in
Yeah,
mind.
that's a great question, and I think it's to keep in mind for people listening and watching is that it's a practice like everything
Yeah.
else, and
Good point.
you're not immediately gonna know. You have to continue to listen and communicate and slowly begin to trust your body. It's like I kind of people are like, "Just love your body," or just but,
Not
like,
that
it's
easy
it's a relation.
sometimes. Yeah.
No, it's a relationship. You
Sure.
have to, like, get to trust it, and, there's something called interoception, which
Mhm.
is learning to understand your body cues, and a lot of people who have chronically dieted or have weight cycled have learned to shut off their hunger cues.
Yeah.
Like I used to feel sort of ashamed of my hunger, like, oh my God, why am I hungry again? I just ate, and either tried to like ignore it or put it in a box or like,
Right.
and it's slowly letting yourself trust again. And you're gonna have some, you know, trial and error there. And that's okay too. Just knowing you have permission to play around and to explore and see what actually is nourishing your body. But the first question I always ask myself is, am I hungry right now?
Yeah.
Because we eat for so many reasons, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be because we're hungry. It could be because it's just right there, or
Right.
we're celebrating, or there's like pizza commercial
I
on
know,
TV
same.
and it's like a cute,
Those chips look
right?
really good right now.
I know, it's
Ah,
amazing how the
yes.
visual cues can make you wanna eat,
Right.
and so I think the question that I normally ask is, "Am I hungry?" But then I always follow up with, "How do I know that I'm hungry?"
Great.
Because
Yeah.
that's when you start to get it to the granular, like, "Well, my stomach feels hollow, I'm feeling a little irritable, like, I'm thinking about food a lot," and slowly over time, you'll start to recognize those cues a little bit better each time.
Mhm.
And when I work with clients, I have them kind of imagine a hunger timeline from 1 to
Mhm,
10,
mhm.
and, like, 1 is, like, the hungriest you've ever felt, and 10 is, like, Thanksgiving full. But most people know when they're either of those,
Yes.
but it's much harder to
Sure.
determine, like, am I a 4? Am I a 3? And so you practice over time, like, where am I on this hunger timeline?
Mm.
And then as people are learning this, as they're eating, I'll have them check in with their meal a few times. Where am I on the hunger line now? Hunger time line now. And, I there's no right or wrong answer, but generally around a 5 or 6
Yeah.
is a good time to stop because it's when your body has gotten what it needed from the
Yeah.
meal
Yeah.
and you can like push yourself away and feel like cozy and comfortable. Your stomach feels good. You have some energy and you're sort of ready to go on with your day.
Yeah, great point. And you're still digesting too. So it's like that's where I always think I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty good right now. There's more coming down too that hasn't even been processed yet.
Right.
So like, okay, maybe take a break here. And what you said earlier about really taking your time with your food, really chewing, really, enjoying it too. Like that slow eating, I am so guilty. My mom always used to, like, kind of poke fun at me, especially when I was younger. I've gotten a little better about it, but, like, "You eat so fast. You are eating like I've never fed you in your life. What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's just really good." Like, so you can get kinda caught up and in it too sometimes, but that's such a great point, and that's a great example of just one question, and then, like, a quick follow-up question, like, a real life example of, like, how we can start to kinda dig deeper into that.
Yeah, and I would add one more too,
Yeah.
because if the answer is, "I'm not hungry, but I'm emotionally hungry,"
Mm.
I think a lot of people start to create a lot of shame and judgment around that, but it's not some I kind of believe that everyone's an emotional eater, so sometimes there's a time and place for that,
Yeah.
and that's okay, and not to be stuck in this, like, scarcity mindset, like, I can only eat when I'm starving or hungry,
Yeah.
but that there's room for all types of eating, like, when we're celebrating, or whenever like, if you're really, really stressed, sometimes chocolate is the only thing that's gonna help, you know?
Got it. Yeah.
So, like, not to, like, go down that rabbit hole of, like, "Oh, I'm so bad because 'cause I'm
And the
eating when I'm not
shame
hungry."
and yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. To kind of shift a little because these are great things to keep in mind whether you are at home or on a trip, but let's shift into traveling here for a second, and if you are on a trip, because that's a different animal, right? Especially when we're on the go, we're not in our normal setting, we're not
Mhm.
perhaps eating our typical foods. Maybe we wanna try lots of things, like, I think a lot of people will sometimes go on vacations or whatever and feel like, "Oh, I'm only here once," right? Like, I really wanna take advantage, I wanna try it all sort of, but a lot of that mindful eating and how we consume can kinda go out the window, even if we
Mhm.
have it kinda locked down at home. So, do you
Yeah.
have any just recommendations or things to keep in mind that people can continue to be more mindful when they are traveling, whether that's vacation, whether it's a work trip and actually you can kind of answer that either way, either being more like mindful or more of that like intuitive eating
Mm.
or both.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of put it all under the rubric of conscious eating
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
that kind of includes it all. And it's definitely harder when you're traveling
Mhm.
because you can't like if you're somebody who's a planner, like I'm pretty like regulated at home. Like I just know my routine and I like the foods that I'm eating. And sometimes you don't know what you're gonna get at when you're
Yeah.
traveling. And I'm actually plant-based. So I always have to bring a little extra bit of planning when I
Yeah.
travel and this can be still in the idea of conscious eating,
Mhm.
but it's not like, you know, micromanaging and planning, but it's about thinking ahead.
Yes.
What time of day do I tend to get hungry, right?
Mhm.
Will there be food around? What snacks can I package up with me and
Yes.
bring with me on the plane? What are some of the food traditions there that I definitely want to participate in?
Mhm.
Like we went to Sweden 2 years ago and I'm like, I want to do fika. I want the thing, I want the coffee and I want the Danish and like making room for that and
Yes.
knowing like there's some places where you can have really special local cuisine or like food experiences I love so much and making planning for that and being excited about it versus how I used to be, which was like really nervous, really worried that I was gonna like gain weight on vacation
Yeah.
and like just just so much worry and it's so much better to like come at this from like this really flexible place and this beautiful place of like exploring a country or a location doesn't even have to be far like
Yeah.
even like local places in Boston, I love to kind of explore and go to those places as well. But, I think it boils down to just having a level of cognizance
Mhm.
about where you're going, with and armed with the knowledge about what when you typically tend to get hungry so that you can plan it and fit it in a way that makes the most sense. And you're not going to be perfect, not at all, because how could you?
Yeah.
And if there's jet lag, there's a whole nother, thing at
Yeah.
play. So that's what I would that's what I would say is just flexibility, but with a little bit of planning ahead of time.
Yeah. Okay, I've talked to several professionals that work in, like, nutrition and think every single one has said the planning is, like, one of the most important parts, and I love that, and I think a lot of us here listening, if we're travel enthusiasts, travel junkies, like, we get excited about the planning, like, the planning is,
Yeah.
maybe not as fun as being there, but it's like, it gets us ready and
Yeah.
excited, and I love that because I also feel like it gives you a little more I don't even wanna say control as in like I have to be controlling way, but almost like empowerment
Yeah.
behind,
Yes.
like, the trip, and you just are just like, "Okay, what things from home can I kinda take with me to maybe ease into this a little bit?" Like, not totally shock my body with this
Yeah.
transition, but still kind of take steps towards, like, easing myself and my body and my organs and all the things into whatever new place we're going into.
Yeah, and in addition, like a lot of people have I mean, like I said, I'm
Yeah.
vegan, so I have like a vegan app and I look ahead
Oh,
of
so
time,
smart.
where are the vegan bakeries and where are the vegan this. But other people may have like a gluten allergy
Yeah.
and they need to like find out what restaurants have gluten-free options, or you
Yes.
have some other sort of food intolerance that you've got, or some sort of medication that makes it that you can't eat until you have to eat on an empty stomach. So
Right.
these are also the things that a lot of people have to contend with when
Absolutely.
they're traveling and out of their typical normal routines.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I want to touch on the plant-based food. So you mentioned you are vegan, plant-based, love that. I wanna ask you, what kinda called you to that? What do you love about it? And for you, you kinda touched on this already, but, like, what does that look like in terms of enjoying, plant-based locally, like, where you are, but then also abroad? So smart to do that app, by the way. I love that because I have a friend that has
Mm.
a gluten intolerance and things, and we were in Italy, and she did have to do that research ahead of time. She was like, "I gotta find restaurants that
Yeah.
have the gluten." But it's so interesting because in Italy, just based on how things are prepared there, very different than America, she had less sensitivity there as well, based on just some of the
Mm.
things. So I thought that was interesting too. But yeah, what does that look like for you? And again, just in terms of enjoying that locally, depending, and I'm sure some countries are
Yeah.
easier than others, and yeah,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
yeah,
So I'll say that, well, first of all, I've been vegetarian since I was 15,
okay,
so I've had to sort of finagle around different things for a long
yeah,
time. I've only been vegan for 5 years, and for me, it's just I'm a highly sensitive person, and I don't wanna harm animals, or
yeah,
I don't wanna participate in, even if it were like, free range and like organic. And for me, I just don't want to.
sure,
But, I don't judge anybody who does. And like I cook meat for my family
mhm,
and like they're meat and potato people. But I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard when I'm with them on vacation
yeah,
because they're off, like, "Oh, was there anything for Jenny to eat?"
mhm, mhm,
And, we went to Puerto Rico a couple of years ago, and I, like, looked in advance, like, what are the local favorites? Oh, mofongo is something, and this restaurant has a vegan mofongo.
yeah,
And, like, we went to, Switzerland
oh,
last
beautiful.
year, and I found this place, it was magical, that had a vegan fondue dish, and I've never had that in my entire life, and I was like, "Oh," and it tasted
It's
so good,
getting
and the texture
better,
was
I feel like.
perfect.
Yes, yeah.
That's the thing, like 10, 15 years ago, I don't think I could be vegan because there are so few
Yeah, or
options,
what
but
was
now
there
a
was
lot
probably
of
not very good, but I see it getting better, it's great.
yes. So a lot of places are much better about that. I also just love the way I feel,
Yeah, yeah,
following a plant-based diet, and I feel better, in my body, and I just, that's another reason why I do it. But
yeah.
it's not always easy, but with enough planning and enough forethought,
Mhm.
it's definitely doable. I also because I need protein, and a lot of
I was
places
gonna
won't
ask you
have
about
like
that. Yeah, so what do you kind of do and p again, the planning ahead of time in terms of protein, like, especially if you do go to a country
yeah.
that is a pretty protein heavy place, like, what do you typically do in that situation?
Yeah, so I bring protein powder with me and I
Mhm.
can put it in my coffee. I bring nuts and seeds that I
Yeah,
can
I was gonna say
snack
that. Yeah,
on.
yeah.
A lot of places will have
Mhm.
beans, or things like that.
Right.
Some places will have tofu, but
Mhm.
I don't count on it because most don't.
Yeah.
And I try to just sort of find my own protein
Mhm.
sources. We do a lot of like Airbnb kind of situations with that have
So then you
kitchens, and
can
I can
kinda
find like a local
that's
supermarket
great.
and like stock up on stuff that I need. And yeah, it's definitely more of a process,
Mhm.
but again, if you are gluten-free or dairy-free or have other sort of food requirements or issues,
Mhm.
it's the same kind of
Yeah.
thing. Not every country is gonna cater to whatever your specific food issue might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanna talk a little bit about your work 'cause with just with body image, and I think this is a part of your work as well, right? And just
Yeah.
what do you see perhaps in your clients or just, things that you see out there? What are some of the things that you see people struggling with most there?
There's so much, but basically
Unfortunately.
basically, yeah, it's like how to accept and honor their bodies.
Mhm.
So, it's one thing to want your body to look a different way or feel a different way or be capable of something, but can you agree to be in the body you have right now
Mhm.
and take care of the body that you have right now
Yeah.
without having to love it? You don't have to love your body, but you can agree to take care of it.
Yeah.
And part of that is again that listening, that trust,
Mhm.
and that building that relationship just like you have a relationship with anybody,
Yeah.
and say, I may want to be over there, but right now I'm here. Can I accept that? Can I drop
In
into
this
my
present
body
moment, yeah.
and focus on the things that make this package, this body feel good right now?
Mhm.
And so I had to really grapple with that when I wrote my book. It was about body image, and realizing like, oh, when I'm in water, I feel great. My body feels great. Certain fabrics feel
Yeah.
really good in my skin. I'm going to focus on that. Like, I need to sort of stay away from people who are more toxic or are constantly talking about their bodies and
Mhm.
or about other people's bodies and how
Yes.
much that affects me. And so like there's a lot of different ways to approach it,
Yeah.
but I think it really starts with, what, I may not be where I want to be, but can I just accept where I am? Like, and it started to a lot of stuff began to flourish from that place. Like I used to be very judgmental of my stomach.
Mhm.
I used to have, like, well, I used to have a really small stomach and then I had three kids. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, can I reframe this? Like this amazing
Yes.
stomach carried three children. And
Humans, like,
how miraculous is that?
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And who am I to sit there in judgment of that?
yeah,
And these arms are not here to criticize. They're here to hold people, my
yes,
children, my, people I love, like my groceries, like,
yeah.
and when you start to move from like your expectations and look into like what's the purpose of these body parts and how can I treat myself in a way that I can feel really empowered and really good in the body that I have right now.
I love that so much. How can you nourish that and love it and be just so come from a place of appreciation for their function, right? And there's
Yeah.
moments like that where I definitely have to check myself a little bit. We only have one child at the moment, but there's certain things where, more or less I've like gotten back to where I am, but there's still a little like toning that I'd want to do, things like that. And yeah, I kind of I'm like, I am I ever gonna kinda go back to normal? Is that even what I want? Like, that carried our daughter, right? And I've seen a lot of things on social media about that and with women, like, we are meant to have a little extra cushioning there. It's protective, right? Like, so
Yeah.
when I love that so much because when we think back to the core of the function of what some of these body parts do and are and how they protect us and our babies if we're women, it's it's beautiful, and I think you can start to come from a place of such appreciation and less shame and judgment and stuff, and again, there's just so much noise out there sometimes, so I definitely think something you kind of alluded to, just mindful intake of all of that, right? If social media is making
Mhm.
you feel worse about yourself, like, get the heck off of it,
Yeah.
right? Or, like, surrounding yourself with people that encourage body positivity and a good mindset around that, and notice some toxic noticing some toxic things that might
Yeah.
be around you, maybe taking a little step back from that. It's
Like, before and
amazing.
after culture, like,
Oh,
there's so
yeah.
much of that,
Yes.
and it's like, why like, is the only way you're gonna get praise if there's, like, a before or an after? Like,
Yeah.
why don't we praise the fact that I went to the gym today?
Right.
Good
Yeah.
job,
Just take it some
like,
credit.
that's enough.
Yeah. Yes, for the weight of your
So I
archery.
definitely relate to that. Like it's a lot of self-pressure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, will I ever get my body back?
Mhm.
And I would challenge people watching today to do this following exercise because for me it was like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I look at an old photo of yourself from like 10, 15 years ago
Mhm.
and look into your eyes and remember how you felt in that photo.
Mm.
And I'm willing to bet a lot of you were like not happy with how you looked, not happy with your weight,
Mm.
criticizing yourself, and are now looking at that photo and be like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Why did I criticize myself?
Mhm.
And then I challenge you to think of yourself right now and then look into the future. Pretend your future self, your self in 10, 15 years is looking at a photo of yourself now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to be like, I'm so grateful for what I have. I'm so grateful for this body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sort
Yes.
of try to have that level of cognizance
Yeah, and
there.
compassion for yourself. My gosh, like we so much pressure coming from so many different sources on a daily basis, and I feel like
It's so
we're so
true.
guilty of it. Like, yeah, there's a lot that external forces might put on us, but for a lot of us, we're our own worst enemy when it comes to that. And then with
So
eating and
true.
everything, you mentioned your book. I actually wanted to talk to you about that, so let's quickly
Oh,
chat about that now. So your book, Body Image Blueprint. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that? I'm sure a lot of what we just spoke about is maybe
yeah.
in there, but anything else that you would
Yeah.
wanna mention about your book? It sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I wrote it in 2017. Like it was pretty much as I was like letting go of diet culture and
Mhm.
starting to accept my body and kind of live the principles that I've been talking about
Yeah.
today. And a lot of it's actually kind of divided into three parts. So the first part is like memoir, like about my childhood and my dieting, experiences with dieting and like the culture of the 80s. It was like huge dieting, like
Mhm.
the cabbage soup diet and this diet. And then in the 90s, it was like no fat this and no fat that. And then I actually interviewed like 60 people for the book.
Wow.
And I talked a little bit about with each of them about, like questions like when do you feel most comfortable in your body?
Mhm.
When did you become aware of the fact that you had opinions about your body? What was something that somebody said to you that brought attention that to yourself that you should be worried about this in some way?
Yeah.
What fabrics feel good? Like it was just like a whole litany of questions and like there was such variety
Yeah.
in these answers and they're not all what you expect either. Some people would say like I was always taller than everybody else. I wanted a breast reduction.
Interesting.
Like only feel comfortable when I'm wearing cotton or I felt great in my skin when I was riding horses because I felt like I was
Mhm.
me, and so I was really moved by so many of these comments. And then the last part of the book is what I call the four realms of body image, where I discuss, the physical realm, the emotional realm, the embodiment realm,
Mhm.
which we talked about, like embodying your body,
Yeah.
and then the nutrition realm. So like, and then dove into each of those categories so that it can work synergistically to help people. Look, again, you don't have to love your body. You don't even have to be body positive.
Right.
You can just be body neutral
Yes.
if you want. You can just be neutral
Yes.
and be like, okay, I got to take care of this, body
Yeah.
here. How can I do it? I get to live in it. So how do I make it feel as good as possible?
Yeah.
And I focus now a lot on the five senses, like because that plays a big role in like how good you feel.
Yes.
Like that's why I mentioned like whenever I take a bath, I feel so good. Or like when I eat in certain foods, I feel a lot better.
Mhm.
And I had to like redefine my relationship with exercise. I mean,
Yes.
the elliptical was my frenemy for so long. Like, I hate you, I love you, I hate and I had to like find a different way to be an exerciser without having it to be like a chore,
Yeah.
but like something that I'm doing because I want to, because it feels good to move my
Yes.
body. And I think a lot of people have like that kind of like fraught relationship
Oh,
with
yeah.
exercise So for me, it was yoga. I love yoga.
Mhm.
And for other people, it might be hiking or like some recreational activity.
Right.
But again, it all plays into that function of learning what makes you feel good in the skin that you have right now.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. That's okay. That sounds like an incredible book. I want to link all of us,
Thank
by the
you.
way, in the show notes. So if anybody is interested in picking up a copy, like that just sounds like such a wonderful, well-rounded book and just great things that you can implement in your life and just, again, just healthier mindset around all of it. As we slowly
Thank
start to
you.
wrap up, and you had kind of touched on this, we've touched on this a little bit today, but just to kind of leave people here listening, they're like, okay, what can I kind of take away from this? What tips do you have for staying nourished, full, satisfied, right? And you can answer this however you want or both, either while at home and or while we travel, without feeling too kind of disjointed from maybe trying new foods or eating new foods or,
Mm,
do you have any just again, tips, strategies,
yeah.
things to keep in mind?
Yeah, so a big one of my philosophy, what part of my philosophy is abundance mindset,
Mm.
because so much about dieting and diet culture is about restriction and
Yes.
about the no's. Don't
Ugh,
don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat after 6. Like I can't have that. And I really feel like reframing that and having people be like, yes, yes, I want fika. Yes, I want fondue. Yes, I want to try this amazing experience
yeah,
and coming at it from a joyful like
yeah,
abundance
yeah.
mindset is really really helpful in that you're not saying like and therefore I'm going to like eat 20 danishes or like you're not like
Right.
planning to do that, but you can when you have the abundance mindset, you're also giving yourself permission.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us don't give ourselves permission to eat with joy because there's so much guilt or
Yeah.
shame or worry or dread or this person said I shouldn't be doing this, and I'm really worried about my blood pressure, or
Mhm.
like, and those are all valid things. But I like to both at home and when I'm traveling to let myself have that abundance mindset,
Mhm.
to immerse myself in that culture, you know, not for necessarily every single
Right.
meal, but like for those special occasions. My husband and I went to Switzerland and we went on this like gondola ride, which was
Oh,
dinner
so
too.
incredible.
And he surprised me with it, and he got like a vegan meal for me and
Oh,
everything. And it was I had the most
what a
incredible
dream. Oh
time.
my
We
god.
we had a great time, and it's like I don't regret any of it,
Yeah.
any of that. And like I ate more than I typically do, and I didn't care because overall you kind of revert back to the mean and
Yeah.
when you're back home.
Yeah.
And like life is about relishing and experiencing
Mhm.
things and using your all your senses, including your sense of
Yeah.
taste. And that's part of for me what makes traveling so exciting
Mhm.
is being able to partake in the local foods and the local food experiences, and also trust that you'll get back to your regular sort of eating
Yeah.
habits, and you're constantly learning, right? It's not
Yes.
so black and white.
Right.
Like we go through seasons of eating. Sometimes you're training for a 5K, and sometimes you have to eat differently because you're sick with the flu, and
Mhm.
sometimes are hoping to have a baby, and so you need to have this, and whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
we don't have to be stagnant in our food beliefs. We can allow for that abundance mindset, and let ourselves like really relish through mindful eating to be able to taste the food, because when you taste your food
Mhm.
and really like linger and let it like saturate your taste buds and like really be immersed in the whole experience, your brain will tell you when you've had enough.
Yeah.
Your
Yep.
brain will tell you like, oh, I got enough out of this. This is great. I can move on.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that I teach clients, because they don't believe that there will be that stopping point. And what I teach them, and I know this to be true because it happened for me when I learned mindful eating,
Mhm.
is like, oh, if I have like if I have 5 pieces of chocolate and I eat it mindfully, I don't want 5 pieces. I want one because it's rich and it's unctuous and it's
Yes.
like sweet
You're
and
savoring it.
actually, yeah, I'm savoring it. I'm like really there, and I'm like, oh, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Look at
Not
that.
just
It's called
mindlessly.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a term for it. It's called sensory specific satiety,
Mm.
and that's like our taste buds get. saturated pretty quickly and there's a refractory period. But a lot of us like override all those,
Yeah,
signals
totally.
because we're eating fast or like whatever it is. And so I would say savor, savor,
Mhm.
be slow, bring abundance, and let joy come into the eating
Yeah,
experience.
I love that, both at home and certainly while abroad too, and I definitely have known people that, they're so strict during the week, or they even, like, got to the point where they were, like, eating the same things on the same night, everything, but, like,
Yeah.
it was, dare I say, too consistent, right? And it almost like they weren't even trying different foods, they weren't getting enough variety in their diet because it was so much the same, and it was
Yeah.
so strict during the week, and then on the weekends, they would just, like, go
Mm.
crazy, and
Yeah.
any, quote, "progress" during the week was just lost because it was just splurging,
Mhm.
and so I love this idea of abundance because and it's just my mom I've mentioned this in another episode too, but, like, my mom always said, "Everything in moderation, all in moderation," and so she was not a woman that was like, she was very healthy, she ate very healthy, but she was like, "I'm gonna have my tiny little glass of wine when I want to," if on it's daily, it got to the point, but it was like this little tiny little glass and her little dark chocolate, and that was, like, her thing, right? But she allowed herself to have those little bits of things that she really savored and enjoyed. So it wasn't this, super strict and then binge type
Mm.
situation. And that really meant a lot to me because I was just like, oh, okay, you can do both. You can have both. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it
You
really,
definitely can.
yeah,
It may not be immediate, like, some of the people I work with are very scared to let themselves eat what they want because
yeah.
they're convinced they will
They
overeat
just
or they will
can't
binge on
stop
it, and
you.
that may
Yeah.
happen.
Hmm.
As you're going through the process, like, that may happen, but when you actually have that aha moment of like, "Oh my god, I've had 1 piece of chocolate and I've had enough," like,
Yeah.
that comes from inside, like, "I'm breaking up with you, chocolate," like, I don't like, it's not me, it's you,
Yes.
and, like, that's a very liberating to be like,
Yeah.
"I'm making this choice, not because I have to stop eating chocolate, but
Yeah.
because I'm ready to and
Yeah.
I want
And I'm
to."
good. Like,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm good,
I'm good
yeah,
for this moment, and
exactly.
then,
Mhm.
until the next time, and then I feel like when you let yourself have it in these, again, moderated, like, situations, you savor it so much more the next time, and you're not just, like, dying to waiting until the weekend until you can have it again, and then you kinda
Yes.
overdo it, and so it's just
Yeah.
yeah, a better
Well, that goes along with the restrictive
yeah,
mindset. Whenever you're
yeah,
restricting or you're having that scarcity
yeah,
mindset, like diet starts Monday or
yeah,
like Last Supper syndrome or whatever that is, like your inner rebel will come out
yes,
and you are gonna overdo it because you've been like, restricting and
right.
like your body's been like, I'm ready for something good,
Yes, yeah,
So when you have that mindset of like permission. Give
yep,
yourself permission, eat slowly, savor it, check in with your body, see how it's doing. What do I want more of?
yeah,
Oh, I was really enjoying those mashed potatoes. I'm going to have some more of that.
yeah,
Or like, again, without worry, but more just like from this place of like, I trust that my body will give me the signals
yes.
to make the right decisions. It may take time,
Mhm.
and that's what building your relationship with yourself is all
Yeah, it's a
about.
practice, like you said. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
My last question for you in terms of self-care, and this is more just if there's anything else we didn't hit on today, are there any just final, like, self-care tips, high level, again, you can answer this however you want, that you might have for listeners here, specifically while traveling? So whether this is diet, whether this is mindset, anything else that comes to mind?
Yes, definitely, because I said earlier, I'm highly
Yeah.
sensitive. I'm very affected by my
Mhm.
environment and by my internal experience. So if something smells, I'm like bad and I'm like really affected by it, or if it's too loud or something like that.
Mhm.
And so I call it sensory self-care, where you're really being aware of the environments that you're in
Mhm.
and trying as best as possible to put yourself in situations that will nourish your five senses. So like if you hate crowds, for instance, making sure that you're going to the restaurants at a time that it's not peak time, or to the
Mm.
museum when it's not at a peak time.
Mhm.
These are things that I think about.
Right.
I also need rest because I get overstimulated really quickly,
Mhm.
and I need to block in times where I'm like don't have stimulation. I can kind of go back to the hotel and have a dark
Just
room
deep
for an
breaths.
hour or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, because my husband is like, "Go, go, go, let's do this, let's do that." And I had to tell him, I'm like, "I need to build in at least an hour break where
Yeah.
I'm, like, not doing anything."
Right.
And I consider that self-care, like, that
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
really focusing on what you need and, like, also making sure that, you can push yourself physically. We go on hikes but not to the point where you feel like you're gonna be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Again, you have to know your limitations and what how to moderate yourself in with respect to, yes, push yourself to you're having these great new experiences, but also know when to pull back and know when to be flexible and that it's okay to like not go to the fifth museum you had planned that day if you're feeling really tired.
Yeah.
And if you're highly sensitive watching this, like I hear you, I get you, and it's okay to create those little pockets of self-care for yourself while traveling.
Yeah. Excellent points. And I know this goes for being at home too, but that's great. And I really appreciate you kind of mentioning that bit about your family as well, and even like their eating habits, because I think I know multiple people where they may be in a relationship or something where someone has a pretty opposite, not gonna say view. What am I trying to say? They're just a little opposite in that way, right? They might eat a little differently, or they're go go go. They don't need to slow down, whatever. And so just
Yeah.
being able to balance and sort of compromise on that, however it works for us, but not
Yeah.
compromising those really important self-care moments and things that we need, and just giving ourselves and everyone else around us, like, the grace to, to do that, whatever we need, whatever feels most
Yeah.
aligned. Yeah.
But it takes a long time. Like, I didn't know this about myself. I've been like this forever, but I didn't always know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like a few years ago where I'm like, oh, I actually need to advocate for myself. I need to actually say this out loud
Mhm.
because otherwise I'm going to be irritable. I'm not going to have any stamina.
Right,
I'm
running
not going to have
yourself ragged
fun.
kind of, and
Yeah,
yeah, and then you don't feel good physically, and it's like, you don't wanna feel that way on a trip, like, you still wanna feel your best as much as possible, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Jenny, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I have certainly learned a lot,
Thank
definitely a lot
you.
of things to keep in mind, so I know listeners here will really appreciate this and all of your work as well. If people wanna connect with
Thank
you
you.
or follow you or learn more, where can they find you?
Yeah, so my website is www.jennyedenberk.com. That's berk.com. That's where all my blogs are, my coaching services, and then I also have a Substack called Just One More Bite with Jenny Berk,
I
and
love it.
I would love for you to become a free
I
subscriber.
love it. Love Substack. There's so much good content on there. So we'll link all of
I
that in the
know.
show notes. But again, thank you so much for coming on today, for all of your wisdom and knowledge and expertise. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you.